We're going to talk about the subject of NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis.
Do you guys think you can artificially increase your NEAT?
I'd say yes.
If you can use your body in more ways when you're just moving about life, that long-term makes a difference.
Those things just sort of become like subconscious.
Exactly.
The signal just goes off in my head like, you've been sitting down for 15 minutes. You need to get up. Like this is emergency.
I think you can set up your environment. Like these things I got off of Amazon, and I have a set here and I have a set at home. It allows me to do things without really putting much thought into it.
If you start to implement stuff, things will go from being conscious thought to subconscious thought. Porn headset.
Yo, yeah.
I mean, wherever you guys want to start, we can.
So you're talking to some of our
youth,
our barely legal employees here at Slingshot.
Your child.
Yeah,
That makes it even more fun.
Yeah, my son. Yeah,
He's over. He's 21. I think. No, he's not 21 yet.
he's not 20 yet.
Yo, nah, because like this.
He's over 18.
He's over 18.
That's a start.
He's legal. Is he legal? Ish?
I think so.
Nah, we were talking about the future, man. The future of porn. And you know that new Apple headset that's coming out? It's going to be like $3,500, but you watch the demo and you're like, you're really in it. And there's this curiosity, you know, like, because you got to watch some porn on it. Like, you got to see what it's like. But the question is will you be able to turn back from that experience?
Is it like Minecraft or is it like full on like
Roblox porn?
Because so far the VR that you're in is kind of like is very video game.
It's a little clunky,
and you can get kind of lost in it. You can think that you're on like a bridge or whatever and get scared, but
yeah,
the graphics aren't amazing. But yeah, once they're able to kind of make it more and more real, and then maybe give it a feel.
Nah, the thing is because like there was an Oculus, Andrew.
Yeah,
people can already watch porn in their Oculus headsets. So like they have things where you're looking around and you're in the room and then the girl's right there. So it's like an actress, right?
That's amazing.
Actress,
an actress. But then,
oh, that's cool,
right, dude? Watch this.
Oh, you're gonna be so screwed.
Dude, Andrew, you should fast forward to the part where the guy's like taking a picture of his daughter with the headset on.
You're not going to want to do anything in real life anymore.
Dude, it would be tough. It would be tough. Keep going. Nah, he's looking at photos of his kid. Just keep going. You'll see. It's the part. Keep going. Keep going. All right, so now you're in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, keep going.
Oh, that'd be sick.
Oh, you'd be courtside right there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Could really be trapped.
Big time.
But
Sorry, I've never watched this, so I don't know where the heck.
Oh, you got to watch this after. But there's a funny part where this guy's taking a picture of his kid and he has the headset on, or he's taking a video of an experience.
Oh, shit.
Oh, yes, there's that.
People will be able to have kind of made up avatars and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much.
That's definitely already here, too.
Yeah.
With like VR chat and stuff. You can kind of just pretend to be anybody. If you
I
just
wonder,
make it.
if the experience is like, you have sound and you get caught up in what you're doing. I wonder how much the graphics of it actually matter, whether it looks like real life or not. It might not matter that much.
Yeah. But okay, so this is where it gets fun though. If you
It's
were
a hell of a commercial, by the way.
It is. I'm surprised you guys didn't see this.
But it goes on for like 8 minutes.
Yeah, this is I
think that was the keynote or something. But okay, so nowadays they have those like, those TPE sex dolls that are like, they feel like real skin. God, this thing is not coming out of here. I'm trying to put this powder into my green juice. But they have this stuff, these dolls that feel like real skin.
Nsima's an investor in all this stuff, by the way. That's why we're talking about it. It's early in the show.
TPE
doll? Thermoplastic just type in TPE, right? You better blur your screen.
How are some of these things for your porn addiction? Do they count?
That's the thing. Because
like a drug addict who's like, I still smoke weed a little bit here and there.
But that's what I was talking
about.
Owen and Jacob.
A sex doll or VR?
That's the thing. Because I was thinking like I had to see what this is like. I got to understand. Doesn't mean I got to pull my dick out, but I just got to see. But the thing is like, will I be able to see this and turn back? Because it's gonna be good. It's gonna be ridiculous.
It's like having a peanut butter chocolate chip cookie right in front of you. I don't think You know, I don't think it's going to work out great.
So no, what I was saying is like, there's going to be guys who have their headset on and now they feel like this chick. And then there's AI where you're going to have porn that like the girl says your name and she's like, Andrew, well, yeah, daddy, Andrew, whip it out. And then you're going to have this doll on top of you while you're naked on your couch, just going back and forth where you feel like it's real and your brain thinks it's real and you're just,
That is wild.
you're done.
And the thing can say whatever you want. So it could talk about how big it is and everything. It'd be awesome.
Yep.
Really pump up your ego.
Such a
This
great
is quite a
podcaster.
I listened to that podcast yesterday.
The production was so good.
Puts you right over the top every time.
Let me ask you this. Do you guys think this will be overall good or bad for society?
Oh, man. I don't know. The movements in technology seem like they help, but they seem like they always get like perverted
Yeah.
right away too. And then there's, I mean, people talk about a lot of bad that has come from the internet, but the internet has created like a lot of wealth for like a lot of people, but I don't even know if that's good. I don't know how good or bad that is. You know, it's created a lot of currency and a lot of, you know, capitalism here in the United States, but some people don't think that's great. Other people, like I enjoy it. You know, people can go off my website and they can order stuff. And so the internet and social media has been a huge bonus, a huge plus.
There have been a lot of crypto millionaires,
Yeah.
right? Mm-hmm. But, you know, the thing I wonder is like overall, I think like generally if you're a guy, like, okay, you probably don't want to watch a crazy amount of porn, but there are guys out there who it's like, maybe they just don't feel like being social. They don't want to talk to women. They'd rather just be alone. But at least this gives them a semblance of skin contact and, you know, some simulated sex, right?
Yeah,
So-
I just think if like you have momentum going in that direction, maybe you're like, okay, I'm too busy because I got my like entrepreneurial side of things going and that's taking off or whatever, and I don't have time for a relationship or somebody that I can actually put time into.
Uh-huh.
So in that case, maybe it'll be good, but I also think momentum goes the other way. And if somebody can't, you know, get with somebody and now all of a sudden they don't need to,
Yeah.
and they're getting that satisfaction that way,
Whenever they want.
and it's
Just
exactly
gotta
what
clean
they
their
want.
doll after. That's all.
Yeah, disconnection
Yeah.
from like more stuff is probably not great. You know, people need to spend more time probably connected to things rather than connected to society. But you know, Facebook and Instagram and these things that have come about, I do think that for some people that have been shy and that maybe aren't outgoing and don't do the best job of meeting new people and stuff, maybe it's been kind of good for some of them. Like it can't all be bad, right? There's groups, you know, like you could have a group in Facebook and stuff like that and communicate with all kinds of people from all over the place, share videos and pictures and like whatever. And not all of that is pornographic and not all of that is always, you know, like foul play, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. Something to think about. So wait, will
it's
you
like a
watch?
virtual society?
Yeah. When you have your VR headset at home, are you going to just like see what it's like?
I don't think I could.
You don't think you could?
No, I don't think I could. I don't think it would be a good idea.
Me neither.
I don't think I should mess with anything like that.
We podcast the next day, guys. I don't know if I can come podcast.
Yeah.
The next day after that, guys, I don't know if I can come podcast today.
Yeah, think about how lost in like a video game you can get.
Yeah.
You know, you can kind of disappear for like a few weeks when you have a really good video game. But with this stuff, you might disappear forever. That'd be the ultimate vanishing act.
Yeah.
I think we had a topic for today.
Well, neat.
Oh yeah.
It's real neat.
Yeah, how neat can it be? We're going to talk about the subject of neat. We've heard some people talking about it recently. We've been wanting to talk about this subject for a little bit. We heard Lane Norton on Andrew Huberman's podcast. Huberman! Huberman says. And what Huberman says goes. So we're going to talk about that today because non-exercise activity thermogenesis is a thing that can help boost people's metabolism. But what Lane explains in this clip is interesting. Is it something that can actually be increased? Can you increase your NEAT, or are you just the kind of person that fidgets and uses your hands when you talk and you pace back and forth and so on? So We're going to dive into that topic for today.
Before we play the clip, I have a question for you. Just the shortest answer possible. Do you guys think you can artificially increase your NEAT? I personally do think you can. I won't explain why, but we'll get into it. But do you guys think you can or not?
I'd say yes.
I would go with yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Let's get into this clip.
Let's do it.
And physical activity is essentially two parts. There's exercise, which is kind of your purposeful movements. Like you go out for a walk, you do a training session, whatever. Any purposeful activity. And then you have what's called NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which I think is actually really cool.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. So I was actually hanging out with somebody last night and I was noticing them. They were fidgeting their feet and their fingers. And I said, have you always been pretty lean? And they were like, yeah, I never really had a problem maintaining leanness. And when you look at the obese resistant phenotype, people think they have high BMR or, they exercise a lot. And really what it seems to be is NEAT. They tend to, if they overeat, they just spontaneously increase their physical activity. Now, people get NEAT confused. I've heard people say, well, I'm going to go out for a walk to get my NEAT up. That's not NEAT. NEAT is not something you can consciously modify. What you're doing there, if it's purposeful, it's exercise. So, for example, when I'm talking, if I'm waving around my hands, if I'm tapping my feet, if I'm whatever, that's NEAT. But, trying to get yourself, well, I'm just going to tap my foot more. Well, now, if I'm consciously having to do this, then my focus, you know how the brain works. Very hard to do. You don't really do two things at once.
Right.
You kind of switch quickly between tasks, right?
Absolutely. Can I quickly ask, was the person that you're referring to our friend Ben Bruno?
No, because he is fidgety too.
Yeah, Ben Bruno is kind of ectomorph looking and a very strong guy who trains a lot of people down in Los Angeles. And they're kind of talking about whether he's a fidgety person. A lot of times you do see that with individuals that are skinnier or leaner. You'll see that they kind of move around a lot. I do agree with what Lane's saying, where he's saying that if it's intentional, then maybe at first it doesn't end up in the category of NEAT. But I think over time, it can end up in that category because it can become part of just what you do and how you are and who you are. I know for myself, having gone from being 330 pounds and being kind of intentionally lethargic as a power lifter, conserving energy purposely to lift the most amount of weight, even intentionally not participating in activities like helping people move.
Sorry guys, I got a minute, 2 weeks.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. I would figure out a way out of a lot of these things.
Can't do that cardio today, guys.
Yeah.
I'm bulking.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a lot of stuff that I pushed off, but now being a person that is running and stuff, I would say that so running isn't necessarily NEAT, and maybe some of the activities that I have inserted into my life, maybe they're not NEAT, but I have intentionally, even just on a plane, on the drive, I've intentionally have had a giant makeover of a bunch of stuff, like my mindset and a lot of other things. But when it comes to the physical side, I will fidget my feet. I will say, oh, I should move my toes around because I know it's healthy for me. I will have to consciously think about it, but every once in a while, I'm like, holy shit, I'm just sitting here for no reason, wiggling my toes around. And that wasn't something that I really did before. So it started out as a conscious thought of I should move more. It's healthy for me to move my toes around more. It's healthy for me to do this. It's healthy for me to get up when I'm on the plane and stuff. But now the signal just goes off in my head. You've been sitting down for 15 minutes. You need to get up. This is an emergency. You need to move around. So I might be on a 5 or 6 hour flight. I'm getting up and down and I'm, stretching and moving the entire time. So I do think over time you can have it be just something that you just go to.
Yeah. I also think that, as you mentioned with your toes, that's probably not something that you were doing before you started working on the foot stuff.
Right.
But because your feet have gotten stronger, but not just that, you've now gained the ability to individually activate all these different things that you didn't formerly have a connection to with your brain. Before, when you're wearing normal closed toe box shoes and your feet aren't as active, your feet are usually stiff. It's almost like if your hands were in mittens all the time, you probably wouldn't move your fingers as much, right? So now, because you have more activity in your toes, you are now moving your toes more. And even like the mats that we stand on, we're podcasting, we're working, but
You got a thing on your hand right now. You're working your extensors of your hand.
Yeah. And I mean, if we're talking to what Lane's mentioning there, he'd probably say, okay, well, you're exercising. But, you know, having this thing under my feet, that's like the rock mat that makes me move a little bit more because now I'm more connected to my feet. That's causing me to move without thinking about moving. I'm not thinking about doing all this. But also, if somebody is in an office, if they have something that they can put their foot on, I think Kelly Starrett calls this the Captain Morgan pose.
Yeah.
This is from Supple Leopard, right? Yep. You can have something that you can put your foot on. So when you're standing around, you're working. Okay, now you put your foot up, you're changing positions, or if you're sitting on the ground working, there are certain positions that you'll sit in for a little bit and then your body will get uncomfortable. And then you will move into another seated position, kind of like Kador talked about. And you will be, while you're just sitting there, whether you're watching TV or working on something or reading, your body's now moving into all these other positions to get you comfortable. That's not on purpose. That's because your body's like, move, right? It's sending the signal. That's an increased NEAT.
Put stuff in your way, you know, put shit in your way of, so it's super convenient. Like it's hyper convenient. You have a slant board in your living room, and every time you walk past it, those kind of dip push-up things that you have in the gym.
Yeah.
I was like, that is such a great signal and reminder of how great push-ups are. Whereas like I don't want to get down on the ground and bang up. You know, you can make an excuse for it, but to have those kind of dip bars there, you're not going all the way to the ground. It's a little easier to get to, easier to get in position. It actually feels really good. It ends up kind of stretching the shoulders. So as much as you can, try to put shit in your way. And you're going to, over a period of time, increase the amount of movement that you're doing.
Yeah, like when I'm wearing Paluvas, so they're a 5-toe shoe, and so like down here on my the bottom of my chair, I'm like going through each foot or each toe, not really thinking about it. I'm just trying to get some space in between each toe. I wasn't doing that before when I wasn't wearing these shoes. So again, setting myself up just to do it for fun. And it's almost like, you know, in school when I'm not paying attention and I'm like just twiddling my like pencil around and stuff, I would just do that because it was just something I did. Yeah. It wasn't like me like, I'm going to exercise, you know, just trying to pass time. So it's almost like what I'm doing right now with my feet, but it's because I have these shoes on.
Yeah, that's why I think it's like, even though I get what they're saying by you can't artificially increase your NEAT, that's something that you do without thinking about it. Like you mentioned, I think you can set up your environment. Like these things I got off of Amazon, and I have a set here and I have a set at home. And I carry this little fucking, Tiana called it a purse. I carry this bag around me. So I can just pull out this shit and just like I have a little ball gripper thing that I'll just pull out and just squeeze every now and then. Because again, it's just like, it allows me to do things without really putting much thought into it. But artificially, I'm moving a little bit more than I used to. I'm doing more things than I used to. And something like this finger extensor thing, I do this type of stuff every single day. And I do think that this is something that like everybody can do. It's going to benefit your grip. It's going to benefit like the strength of your hands. And that's something, as far as longevity is concerned, it's going to be super beneficial as you get older. But it's something that most people don't usually work on in the gym. Sometimes maybe they'll grab a plate and do the plate pinches or some shit. But something like this is so cheap and it's so beneficial.
I do a lot of stuff like this when I'm driving. You know, I'll just open up my palms, move my wrist around a little bit. I've been moving my back around. I put my, like even when I'm driving, I'll put the back support. I'll put that back, and then I just kind of hold the wheel, and now you have to stabilize. And it sounds kind of funny, sounds silly, but like you'll feel your hip flexors, you'll feel your obliques, you'll feel your back. What's amazing is when I was driving to Tahoe this weekend, I didn't realize how like short I make myself by like just sitting, you know, in this position, allowing the backrest to just support my body. I'm like blobbed out, you know, I'm like 4 inches shorter. And then I'm like, let me just straighten my spine and reorganize and bring my chest up. And I found myself like breathing better. Am I burning more calories by supporting my own body weight? Like, of course I am. And then plus, you're driving, and as silly as it might sound, you're going around turns, and you're especially going to Tahoe. It's really windy, and there is a little bit of like extra activity going on. So I think wherever you can, if you can kind of think about it, try to burn those calories. I do agree and disagree with Lane on this topic. Like, I do understand what he's saying, because all of us have tried to help people before, and sometimes we do scratch our heads and we're like, that guy's a construction worker. Like, how did he get into this spot? Like, how does he have an extra 60 pounds on him? Like, in terms of activity, like, it doesn't really seem like this guy needs any more activity. This guy does a lot every day. But when you're starting to embark on an exercise or a nutrition fitness journey, it's not really a matter of what you're currently doing, because your body's so used to that. My wife and I have talked about this because my wife is a swimmer. And sometimes some of her friends like want to lose weight, and they're like, man, I'm swimming and I'm not losing. Well, swimming is not new for you. It's already what you're doing. So you're not really increasing your activity, nor would you be increasing your NEAT in that particular situation. This is a automatic for your body. And sometimes when you become efficient at it, the more efficiency that you have, the less calories you're going to start to burn in certain situations. Maybe in jiu-jitsu class, as you get better at it, it gets easier and easier to do some of the moves and some of the stuff, and you're not winded nearly as much. Your heart rate's not going to 180 anymore. Same thing with like running as an activity. So the activities that you have now, it's not like they're not a positive. They're still a huge positive. They're still a huge net positive, because they're not new or novel. It may be more difficult for those things to have an impact on your health and fitness journey. But over time, if you start to implement these small things, like just imagine if you went on one, let's just say one, because like people get tied up with not doing 2 or 3. Let's say you did 1 10-minute walk every day. You do 1 10-minute walk every day. Is it going to make a huge difference in a year? Maybe not. But is it going to make a difference in 3 years? Like in 3 years, it has to calculate out to something. Something as minute as chewing gum. I think gum is like 30 calories an hour or something like that. It sounds like a complete waste of time, but if you implement that and you're walking and you're doing some other things, and we've been standing this whole time that we've been podcasting for however many years. We're almost at 1,000 episodes. Yeah. Like more calories have been burned here than on other shows where they're sitting the entire time.
We're better than you.
Yeah. So over time, that has to kind of result in something. But I think the take home here is over time, that if you start to implement stuff, that things will go from being conscious thought to subconscious thought. And even your diet is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Your nutrition's a huge part of that. And if you can get the nutrition side down, you could worry about the activity side a little bit less.
Power Project family, if you're trying to increase your muscle mass, if you're trying to lose body fat, if you're trying to stick to your nutrition plan, if you're trying to get fit, pretty much if there's anything you're trying to do for your health, we know that sleep is the biggest determining factor to help you get from point A to point B. That's why we've been sleeping on 8 Sleep mattresses for probably more than 2 years now. And the main reason is the technology behind the Pod Pro. Now, the Pod Pro is like the Tesla of beds. It will change its temperature based off of how you're sleeping during the night. And if you have a partner that's sleeping on the other side, they can have their own temperature settings. We all sleep hot here, and I used to wake up in a puddle of my own sweat. Gross. That doesn't happen anymore because of the 8 Sleep mattress, and I've been getting the best sleep of my life. Now, if you don't want to replace your mattress, you can just get the Pod Pro cover, and you can put that over your current mattress to get all the benefits of 8 Sleep. But if you also need to replace your old nasty mattress, you can get the Pod Pro cover and the 8 Sleep mattress. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, you guys got to head over to 8sleep.com/powerproject, and you guys will automatically receive $150 off of your order. Again, 8sleep.com/powerproject. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
In the span that you were just mentioning and explaining this right now, I'm pretty sure I've moved my foot from this to this about like 4 times.
I thought you were going to say you farted 7 times.
No, I've moved my foot, but
8 times.
No, dude, like the thing is like, I think just things can become much more different if you can change your environment. I understand that. And there's some places where you work and there's nothing you can do about your environment. Maybe you have to sit at work. Maybe you don't have an option. But if you do, I think it's going to be massively beneficial if you can get yourself just standing and get yourself something to put on your feet and get yourself something to put your leg on. Because like one thing I've noticed as we've been doing the podcast, like for years now, there's times where I'm just like, okay, let me just, after I've realized how beneficial balance is, there's just times where I'm just like standing on one foot while we're talking or standing on one foot while I'm listening to a guest. And then I'll put my foot up and I'll just get into my hip a little bit. And then I'll move into these different, because it's become habit, but it's not necessarily something that I'm telling myself, hey, do that. It's just like, at this point, I know I should do that. Just kind of like we were talking before this, and you mentioned like years ago, and I agree too, I used to think this, like, I used to kind of just think walking was dumb because I didn't move as much.
100%.
Right?
I didn't like it.
Me neither.
Now I love it. Now I actually will be, I'm frustrated unless I hit like a certain amount of steps in a day. And I don't really mean that I look at my phone or I look at the apps to see the steps and I'm like, oh man, I only got 4,000 steps and I wanted to get 10,000. I don't really care about that. I don't really even look at that. But I can tell. I can feel it. And it doesn't feel good. I'm like, man, I'm kind of antsy today. Like, what's going on? Like, what's different today than other days? I'm like, oh shit. Like, if I don't move for the equivalent of like 4 or 5 miles every day, then I'm not really that pumped. I'm more excited when I have that amount of movement. I actually think that, I think that goes for everybody. Yeah. I don't think anybody gets a free pass on that. I think the human body, between certain ages, a healthy human body is supposed to move approximately 4 or 5 miles every single day. And I don't really mean the steps. I just mean like 4 or 5 miles of some sort of, could be any activity that you're doing, but to mimic 4 to 5 miles of movement. And when you don't, I think you don't feel good.
Yeah. And I also don't think it's like, obviously as people get older, most people slow down. But I mean, I think as we've realized, it's not that you have to slow down. I think it's what ends up happening is like, maybe passively, you know, your environment around you, the people around you, most people stop doing certain things. And because most people stop, you stop. But we've seen so many examples of people that are older, like Mark Sisson, who we just had on the show, Mike O'Hearn. There's many seniors who we know who they haven't stopped.
Yeah,
right?
Mark's 70.
Mark's 70.
You know, we talk about like sometimes 40, 50, 60. We're like, oh, it's not that old. And like we're trying to give people a benefit of the doubt. When you're 70, that's fucking old.
Mark is doing great, though.
He's doing incredible.
We were podcasting. I was just roasting him a little bit. I love him though, but he's doing great. Like that's what I want to be like. You know what I mean?
Same.
And you don't have to stop.
Driving with your car with the seat reclined that far is very dangerous. So just be careful. Don't get rear-ended because you'll get sent into outer space.
Well, you had a self-driving vehicle.
I know, but still, that's not controlling the guy behind him.
True. That's true.
What happens
next year?
Yeah. What happens to your NEAT if you get a really good night of sleep or you take like a bunch of caffeine?
Oh, dude, you're right.
Right?
Yeah. No, when you take caffeine,
Kratom. Increase your.
On that note, let me take a little sip of shit.
You're gonna be more fired up, but getting good sleep. I mean, you bring up a really excellent point. You can't make something out of nothing, and you need ingredients. There's ingredients that you need every day: macronutrients, micronutrients, sleep, hydration, sunlight. Those are all things that can like give you energy. Caffeine is interesting because it doesn't necessarily like give you energy, but it feels like it is something that helps you to release or unlock more energy. Kratom might be kind of in that same category, and there might be some other things that are kind of in that category. I just think if you were to think of your day-to-day and you're starting to think about why you don't do certain things, some of this might sound funny, but when you get to be 330 pounds, all kinds of things change. Your belly's in the way of stuff, and it just gets to be harder to do certain things.
In the way of what?
Something like, get in the way of everything. Luckily, I never had like a huge distended belly. I had a big gut, but I didn't have like the power belly that goes way, way out. Luckily, I didn't get that one. But being 330 pounds, you don't even realize there's certain things that at least for me, maybe somebody else might be more mobile or something that's 330 pounds. But for myself, you don't really realize there's certain things that you just don't do anymore. Obviously, like running wasn't anything I was going to do. When I was younger, I played football and I did track and I ran and I did stuff like that. But there's a lot of little stuff. There's a lot of NEAT that decreases.
Oh, yeah.
So he's talking about he doesn't really believe that you can increase your NEAT. It would be interesting to get his perspective on, do you think you could decrease your NEAT? Because what happens in the case of, like, let's take my mother, for example, who ended up with a walker, and then the walker, wasn't too much longer. I think she had the walker for 3 or 4 years before she died. She died from not having enough activity and from not being able to manage her nutrition. That is, so you can definitely decrease it. We can see that clearly. The old adage of people that are obese, need to move more and eat less, is definitely a situation that they end up in.
Yeah.
But they end up there because you kind of get locked in there because you're not eating properly, you're overeating, and you're also, at the same time, some of those individuals are malnourished, which sounds weird, but they're not eating the right food, so they don't have the correct nutrition. And then a lot of times people get so big, I was in this category, where you can't sleep well anymore when you're 330 pounds. Look how bloated that face is.
Dude, you look like, okay, if you just gave Mark a little bit of like undead paint, he looks like he'd be like a heavy zombie, like one of those like big zombies from the Walking. What was that video game? Last of Us. Was it you look like one of those big ones that come after you?
I would love to be a zombie.
Because your body's like red and pale and shit.
I just got done bench pressing. So I was in a bench shirt.
Okay.
And like it was all hell broke loose.
Your chest looks mad.
That was amazing. We're looking at a picture of me shaking hands with somebody that's not standing there.
I can't see anybody.
John Cena. I remember we were backstage. This was backstage at the Olympia.
Yeah.
And I was doing a bench
shit.
press on the stage. It was a lot of fun. I bench pressed 800 pounds. It was super cool. But the Olympia women, they just don't care. They're changing and they're just like right in front of us.
Yeah.
And I'm like sitting in a chair. I usually would try to sit by myself. I like to kind of be by myself for a little bit. I just look up and these girls are like, they're naked in the room that I'm in.
Naked? Like, wait, naked?
Naked. Like they're just taking stuff off and changing. And I'm just kind of like sitting there, like in a daze, And one of my friends, Tristan, he walks in and he's like,
"Oh God!"
He goes, "Holy shit!" And like the girls like turn around and
ruined it for
I was
everybody.
like, "Oh my God!" And he comes over to me. He's like, "Holy shit!" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Can you believe the hamstrings and calves on these girls?" And then he smacks me in the back of the head. He's like, "You fucking meathead." He's like, "Their tits are out." He's like, "They're naked." And you're talking about their hamstring and calf development.
I love how wholesome you were, man. You're like, "Wow, you have great hamstrings and calves. That's amazing work." And Tristan's like, "Titties."
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
Oh my God.
But hey, no, going back to the point you brought up, what you mentioned is a really great point because like this, not just gaining weight, but this can be applied to people who lift. When you lift and you lose mobility or you lose the ability to move into certain ranges, you just kind of passively stop trying to move into those ranges, right? And because now, since you're not doing that, you're not going to want to even sit on the ground.
Just as an example, everyone can relate to.
Yeah.
You drop something on the ground first thing in the morning. Are you going to pick it up? Or are you just going to wait a little while until later? But there's people that it's going to be hard. Like they might have to use, I'm not trying to make fun of or laugh at, but like sometimes people are older.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have injuries. And they might have to literally, try to think of some other way to get whatever object is that they dropped off the ground. Mm-hmm. What I was going to mention is that when I was heavier, it was harder to like wash my feet and stuff. And so at a certain point, you're like, the soap gets down there anyway. Mm-hmm. So I'm not even going to bother to like reach down and scrub my feet.
It does,
but
though.
It does. It sure does. But that's one more area that you're not moving. So you don't even think about like that's moving down and washing your feet is like a calorie burn and it's extra movement. And there's things that happen in your day to day. And me being 46, gonna be 47 this year.
Let's go.
like just losing tiny bits of like eyesight over a couple years. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, you can't read certain shit on your phone. You can't see things the same way as fucking everybody else. And you're like, oh my God, like what has happened here? But I would say that your movement can erode too. And you have to really pay attention to it, because as obvious as like, you know, going down towards your feet and scrubbing them, when you're injured, like if one of us hurt our back or one of us had like a pretty serious injury, things do get limited, and you don't do those things, but it's only for a couple days and you normally go back to it. But what happens when you go back to that thing and it's just, you're not able to really move the way that you used to?
Yeah. You know, it kind of reminds me of, remember when David White came for the first time, he showed us that coil, right? Now
I didn't understand what I didn't understand what he was talking about, because I couldn't do it enough to feel it. I'm like, what are they showing us?
But I remember after doing that, because there was like flexion and then rotating back and feeling all of that activate, for the next few days, I was just doing everything I could to access that, because I realized I'm not really accessing that much, right? Like when lifting, you're usually just lifting everything neutral. You're not really coiled, right? And even in jujitsu, you don't really get coiled. But once I started accessing that, I'm like, wow, I really want to start getting in there. And when you, it's just like the feet. When you start accessing the feet, when you gain connection to the feet, naturally, like you're noticing this, Andrew, you just want to move your toes a little bit more. So it all comes down to, as you lose weight, you get in better shape, you start doing more things, you start moving a little bit more. But now, how can we figure out ways to access parts of our body that maybe we weren't before? Because when you gain that ability, you're going to passively just start doing more and moving more.
What's our buddy? David? Movement David?
Yeah, Movement by David. David Turin.
Movement by David. Watch that dude move around. You know, that clip I sent you guys yesterday, I don't know if you can pull it up,
we should pull
Andrew.
it up.
He moves around like what? He moves around like a little kid.
Yeah.
You know, because his strength to weight ratio is really good, and he's mobile, and he feels good. So imagine how much, if you can watch this video, imagine if you had the ability to do some of the things that this guy did, you would be very encouraged to move around a lot.
We should just play the video.
Yeah, you should play the video.
Yeah, let's just restart it. It's
really
a good one.
Really valuable for people.
Sure, let's do this. And maybe if I do that. And there's still no sound.
You got to click the thing, right?
If you can't climb, how do you expect to escape the bad guys? Next, the ability to fall and land, preferably without dying. I mostly say that because dying doesn't sound all that fun. And next, the ability to slip without injuring yourself. Oh, gosh. And if you do have an injury, you should have the ability to, with your healthy leg, get all the way back up, you know, in case the zombie apocalypse happened. How do you expect to have a happy life if you can't even jump for joy? That's so sad. So you should be able to jump. And lastly, you should be able to sprint and recover without losing your breath for the next 30 minutes or so. One day you're gonna run for the last time in your life, and you might not even know that that's the last time. Wow. Stay flexy.
Yo, why?
Yeah.
I didn't. Why'd you hit us with that darkness at the end? It's like the whole video is like cheery and jump and whatever. And one day you might run for the last time.
And then, yeah, there's like a big dark cloud comes over top of them, some thunder and lightning.
Jesus, David.
Running is a great example. You know, I mentioned like not getting down to like scrub your feet. Maybe for some people that just never happens and they don't have to ever think about certain things like that they lose abilities on. But a lot of people can relate. There's probably a lot of people listening right now that they're no longer, you know, playing a sport, and maybe it's been a year since they've run. Maybe it's been 2 years. Maybe it's been 5 years. Maybe it's been 10 years. And I think one of the things that prevents us sometimes from doing something so simple as some form of running is that we think that we have to run a certain distance or a certain speed. Like you think, you know, as a kid, I think it's like fun to run. You know, with your child, Andrew, like he just bouncing up and down on the couch. We should play that clip if you don't mind showing people that, because that was awesome, where he's bouncing up and down on the couch. But that feels good when you're that age. But as you get older, some of these things, if you haven't been practicing them, they'll feel shitty. And so that's why on the show, we try to encourage you as much as possible. Just please don't lose some of these things.
Yeah.
If you have good mobility through your hips and your hamstrings and shoulders, figure out ways to keep some of that. Keep a stay up to date on that kind of stuff. Make sure that you're still moving, because eventually, if you're not doing the movement, if you're not doing some of these things, you might start to lose it. And then you're going to start to lose some strength. You're going to start to have all the quote unquote normal things that happen to older people are all going to happen to you. And I think it's easy to, if you look at family members, you look at you think of your uncle when you're 12, or other family members, and you're like, they're super old. And as you get to be 13, 14, 15, you're like, I'm never going to look like that. And then as you get older, you start to maybe look a little bit like that, and you're like, holy shit. So I'm not saying that that's the worst thing in the world, because maybe your aunt or uncle or somebody, maybe they exercise and move around. Yeah, maybe they take care of themselves. But if they don't, you don't want to end up that way, and you don't have to end up that way.
Yeah. Power Project Family, we talk about beef and meat all the time on the podcast. That's why we've partnered with Certified Piedmontese Beef. But did you know this? That 85% of all grass-fed, grass-finished beef in the United States is imported from other countries? 85%.
Damn.
But Certified Piedmontese is made in the U.S. of A.
America.
Fuck yeah. So go out and get some of the best tasting, some of the leanest, some of the best beef from Piedmontese. Andrew, how can they get it?
Absolutely. So you guys can head over to cpbeef.com, and at checkout, enter promo code POWER to save 25% off your entire order. And if your order is $150 or more, you get free 2-day shipping. Again, cpbeef.com. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
Fuck yeah.
He's working on the calves, working on the legs, bouncing on the couch.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so if he's watching TV...
Andrew watching the 49ers, too.
Man. I don't know why it's doing this, but...
It's skipping around.
Yeah, it's being weird. I wonder if I do it like this. It's being weird. Sorry. Anyway, my son, if he's watching TV, he's doing this the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool at our house because I don't care. I've been wanting to throw the couches out anyways, but he does it at other, his grandparents' house. It's like, I was like, sorry guys, this is just what he does. But like, we'll go for a walk, and it's like about a 15-minute walk around like the entire block.
Yeah.
We'll try to put him in the stroller, but he gets out of it pretty quickly because he just doesn't want to be in it. We're walking, he's running the whole time, and he'll catch up to something that he finds interesting, and then he like messes with it, and he's like, all right, I'm bored, and he starts running again. And so like, I have to go at like a pretty fast clip just to keep up with him, because I don't want him to dart out into the street, which, he just darts any direction, and just if that happens to be when a car's coming, that, worst thing can happen. So I have to stay close to him, and it's like, it's not like impossible. Like, it's not really hard for me, but I can't just like cruise, like I can't be on my phone and, messing around. Like, I have to be watching him and walking really fast. So we'll do that, and we'll get home, and all of us are like, whew, happy to be home. Like, let me take a little, like a sit down or something. And he's just like already on the couch jumping. And I'm like, dude, and he won't do it for 10 seconds. He won't do it for 20 seconds. He won't do it for 30 seconds. He just does it non-stop. He'll take a little break, like as in like, let me change the whatever cartoon or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then he's back to jumping again. It's just nonstop. It's the coolest thing ever, because I'm like, I can't even jump rope for like 15 seconds without being out of breath. And he's just, mouth is closed because he's usually eating something. And so he's just like nasal breathing, jumping the whole time. And I'm like, you're going to be a freaking savage. Like, this is exciting. It's really cool. Yeah.
That's awesome, because a lot, kids, I think they're doing that movement to get stronger. I think they seek that movement to get stronger, and then they happen to enjoy it as well. My brother was telling me this morning that kids, they produce a protein. I forget exactly what it's called, but they produce a protein that tends to down-regulate as you get older, and it's something that encourages them. Even when they fall, it encourages them to get back up. It encourages them to move around more. I'll actually look it up so that we have a little information on it.
That's really...
It's fascinating.
Yeah, that makes sense, because like, even like, so he'll I'll see if I could pull up the picture, but like, he'll do like a handstand. So like, he'll be on his feet, he'll do a handstand, kick his legs up, and land hard on his knees.
Oh shit!
Over and over and over, and his shins and his knees are all bruised up, and he does it again and again the next day.
Yeah.
And I'm just in my head, I'm like, ooh, yeah, I can't even take one of those right now without like, okay, I got to check everything okay. Like, all right, cool. Let's not do that again for a while. And he just like every day. I'm like, dude, I don't. So what you just said makes sense because he just doesn't want to slow down.
It's called GDNF, and it gives you courage. And courage from a fall and courage from probably like almost like messing up or something like that.
So, I mean, it's not that adults don't produce GDNF, right? It's just what, do adults produce less GDNF?
I think it starts to decline over time maybe, but maybe it declines over time because you're not moving. So maybe it's something that has to do with more with movement. As you guys are kind of looking some of that up, I think NEAT should also be looked at like this. I think it's called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, but it should also be, NEAT could also be looked at as non-eating activity thermogenesis. So if you can find activities that you enjoy and entertainment that you enjoy amongst friends that isn't always eating, that isn't always such a calorie bomb, or if there is eating, I like, you know, what Andrew does, like when he goes to family gatherings, he brings healthy food, but you don't bring healthy food that's like gross, right? You're not bringing stuff. It's stuff that other people eat, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Every time. Like I said, like it's one of my favorite things to do is like
you're not bringing like a tuna salad or something weird that no one cares about.
And yeah, a bunch of like flavorless, like I'm not what people would call like rabbit food, right? I'm not,
like fat-free potato chips or something.
No, it's usually something that people have no idea that it's like a high protein, you know, variant of what they're normally used to. Mm-hmm. And then nobody complains. Nobody says a damn thing until somebody asks, how did you make this? And then I'll say like, there's actually no like sugar in there. It's actually low calorie and high protein. Oh, okay. So that's why it tasted a little different. Okay. And I'm like, but you ate the whole fucking thing. I don't think there was a problem with it.
Right.
You're just a little bit uncomfortable with something being a little healthy.
Why is it that people have a discomfort when it comes to like
I have
something?
No clue.
Like you mentioned this thing about like, so I'm not going to mention who, but someone like not liking the Quest Cheez-Its.
Yeah.
And because they found out they were healthy. I'm like, why is it they were good? And then once you found out they were Quest Cheez-Its, you're like,
yeah.
What? Why?
Had I put those things in a bowl with no label on it, no label that says high protein, they would have been eating them until, you know, till some of the, you know, how those like health foods can.
Why am I so gassy?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. But it's like it would have got to that point, and nobody would have batted an eye.
Yeah.
But because it's one of those things. Mm-hmm. Okay, no, I'm okay. Like, but you haven't even like. Okay, fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Why is it uncool sometimes to like care about your body weight? To like manage your body weight. I think it's uncool to be out of control with your body weight. Like that's just something that, it unfortunately, you know, it just could lead to negative health outcomes. Yeah. So, I mean, you don't have to get as crazy as we do with it, but that's a cool picture.
I'm trying to get it to, I'm sorry.
It was on the screen.
I know, but once I get away from the screen, let me see if it'll stay up. Okay, cool.
Let me ask you guys.
This is what the kiddo does, is he just does a handstand and then he just falls right to his knees. And he's getting better and better at it to where he can like stay balanced on his hands longer, especially if it's not towards the end of the night where he's tired.
Yeah.
So he's getting it.
Let me ask you guys this. What are some things that, like, when you look back years ago, what are some things that you've noticed that maybe you passively do now that you didn't do in the past? Like, one thing that I noticed for myself is now, and it's every single day, and now it's just habit, but in the past, I never used to just move my back around so much. Like, when I wake up in the morning, I'll be like, okay, let me just get in the back right there. Let me get right there. And throughout the day, I'm always like I'm just moving my fucking spine so much more than I ever did in the past. And it's not something that I'm doing because like I'm trying to do it. I'm just doing it because it just feels good to get into those spots because I have access, right? What are some things that you guys do that like you just didn't do before?
I think there's like endless amounts of shit that has changed for me. I didn't used to like walking. And then I would say, nearly every day for a few years, I would walk a minimum of like 4 or 5 miles, oftentimes walking, 8 or 10 miles. I did, 100,000 steps with Ryan Soper, where we walked for 50 miles.
You guys are crazy.
I've done all kinds of stuff, but walking was a thing that I just didn't really like. I didn't enjoy it. And then now I think just movement is, maybe it sounds meatheady to say, but it's like everything to me. It's really important. I don't think I necessarily need it, and I'm gonna like crack. I don't necessarily need particular exercise because I'm gonna have a meltdown. I don't feel that way, but it just makes me feel better. It just makes me feel good, and I like it. I don't always like to push into stuff hard and sweat and all that. Like, I'm just like anybody else. I don't always like the initial idea of that every single time. But once I get there, I'm like, this is exactly what I was looking for. Like, this is exactly what I needed. Mm-hmm. And I know, before we start the podcast, we used to normally move around a little bit. And then now it's like we move around more. Oh, yeah. And now it's like a prerequisite before we podcast, where people come in and they see us kind of moving around, and hopefully they jump in with us, because we're going to spend a half an hour at least, regardless of kind of who it is, moving around, because we just feel that it's super important. I also think it's important for the guests to see, like, this is what we love to do. We don't just talk about it. We actually do it, and we really love it. And it's all the way to the point where in Nsima, a lot of times you'll say, hold on, I just got to knock this out. And you might do a couple things with the sled, or you might balance on something, or throw the kettlebells around for a few minutes. But I think those things are really important. It's like, you're moving around, but you're like, let me get my mind right. Yeah. Now, once I moved around, now I can be more enthusiastic, and we can have a better podcast. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, along the same lines, the micro-dosing of workouts now. Like, before, I used to think I had to get like an hour session in, or else it was pointless. Now it's like, okay, well, shit, I'm doing something every day. So the movement, hygiene, all of that is like all being incorporated every single day. But something else also is just like sitting on the floor. Like, I've been doing that for a little while now, but more recently, like, that's been like the thing that's stuck around a lot and makes a lot of sense. And it's also one of those things that you can do anywhere. Yeah, you might stand out in certain areas, and you do kind of get the attention, and I'm not an attention seeker, and I'm not trying to do that. But like, if I'm at, parents' house, in-laws' house, whoever it may be, like,
maybe even the airport.
Yeah, so that's what I was meaning. Like, yeah. I've sat down in like doctors' offices and stuff, like in the waiting room and stuff, and people walk by and it's like, no, okay. But like, again, like at families' houses or something, there's floor everywhere. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't have to sit on the couch. Love that. And then and it's funny because like there's plenty of places to sit down. Like, oh, why don't you have a seat? Like, no, we're good. And then the cool thing now is with my son, like, he's always throwing something at me, so like we just play on the floor now. Yeah. But yeah, so like sitting on the floor is what's great about it that I really, really like is because it's like, oh, but it gets a little uncomfortable. It's like, yeah, well, that's cue to not be there anymore. And like, let's move around a little bit. Like, so it's kind of like that
switch positions.
Yeah, exactly. That's what, so it's like, when we were talking about, like, cause I sit down during the podcast, but like the second we're done, I like to stand up, or if I'm working on something here and it's like, oh shit, it's been like an hour, like it's time to stand up. When you're on the floor, you get those reminders way quicker. And it's just like we're talking about NEAT and stuff. It's like, well, you have no choice other than to move. Yeah. Like, you're forced to.
We talked to countless professionals on the podcast about the importance of having strong feet, and chances are that wearing narrow toe box shoes has weakened your feet and your toes don't function the way they should.
Sucks, bro. Yeah.
That's why we've partnered with Palooza, and they're the first casual wide toe box 5-finger shoe that you can wear running in the gym, literally anywhere. But the benefit of these shoes is that as you stick your feet in and your little toesy woesies start to get a little bit of spacey waisies, your feet will start to function the way they should, because your toes will slowly start to widen out and your feet will no longer be this blobby little cast that they probably are right now. Andrew, how can they get them?
Yeah, time to spread them cheeks. I mean toes. Head over to palooza.com/powerproject. That's PELUVA.com/powerproject. And at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject15 to save 15% off. Again, that's at palooza.com/powerproject. Links in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
They got tons of them. Check them out.
See if we can play maybe the rest of the clip.
Yeah.
We also have a clip from Ben Greenfield. I don't know do you have access to that when it's in our notes on the Power Project, or do you need me to send it to you?
I'll look for it.
Okay, cool.
Lane looks extra jacked in this little still.
He's flexing the entire time. He's been crushing it, man. I mean, he's still lifting some big ass weights. He's still deadlifting over 7, squatting 6, benching 4 something, I think. I mean,
Oh, he's in the 4s now.
or I think he's close to it.
Oh, okay.
I'll just give him 4.
You can't just give 4.
No, I
What
shouldn't
if-
do that.
What if we gave you 4? Can we give him
You can't
4?
give me 4. That's why I'm being extra
know,
picky
that's
on
why.
this. Because you
I
can't just
know.
give a motherfucker 4.
400 even?
Did he get it?
396? I don't know. 386.
It's $396 on sale. All right, here we go.
And what's very interesting about NEAT is that seems to be the most modifiable. I mean, exercise is very modifiable because you can be intentional with that. But of, BMR, TEF, and NEAT, NEAT seems to be far more modifiable. So even a body weight reduction of 10%, they've observed a decrease in NEAT of almost 500 calories a day.
Pause. So that's interesting. A decrease in body weight by 10%, he said, right? Mm-hmm. And then it decreases your NEAT.
So one thing, okay, and this is
That's what he said, right? I got
that is what
correct?
this is what he said. So a decrease in body weight decreases NEAT. I think that would be something that would be initial. Because when somebody goes into a caloric deficit and then they start losing weight, usually they continue eating in a deficit for a period, but they've lost weight and they're eating less food, there's going to be a general, they move a little bit less. But after some time, I think, especially just like kind of seeing how like we've seen certain people who have lost a lot of weight and changed their activity go about things, I think that NEAT could go up because these people will probably, like we mentioned, have different access. They're not feeling as heavy. They have the ability to move more. So there's a lot of things long term that will probably change for that person. Short term, I totally get it. I get why that happens. But long term, I think, again, individual to individual, but I think many people will have an increased NEAT by getting in better shape.
This is part of the reason why I've taken such a long period of time to lose my weight. People ask, like, how long did it take? Like, I don't know. I'm still working on it. It's like been a 10 or 12 year mission. One of the reasons is I think that exactly what you said, when you, by Lane Norton's definition and by the definition that people often reference, by definition, if you're losing weight, you're in a caloric deficit is what people say, and other people argue back and forth, but it's about right? You have less energy coming in, more energy being burned in some capacity, and so therefore the scale is going down. If the scale is not going down, then you're at maintenance calories. If the scale is going up, and obviously it can get a little more complicated than that, but that's kind of the rules that we go by for now. But if you lose weight fast, I wonder like where that stat comes from. Those are always the interesting things that I would like to know and learn more about. Like, who are these individuals that they study? What do they look like? Are these individuals that are lifting weights? Because that's a big factor. Because if you're increasing your muscle mass, you're going to be increasing your metabolism over time. But that's really slow too. But what if you're losing body fat at a similar rate that you're gaining muscle? Like, gaining muscle, takes a long time. So maybe that's like an exaggerated version, but I think that the way that you need to lose weight, I think the way that most people need to lose weight when they're trying to lose weight on a more permanent basis is it's like stealing sand from the beach. You need to do so one pail at a time, and that way nobody notices. Your body doesn't notice. It doesn't register. It's not enough for your body to really need more food, more activity, or less activity in this case. So it's got to be done like very small and very incremental.
That's a hell of a visual. It's like stealing sand from a beach. I like that. Yeah.
I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this study, and I'll send it to you. Maybe it'd be fun to do a kind of an online journal club about this at some point soon. But there's a study that came out of University of Houston recently, having people do, now this is a long period of time, 4 hours a day of basically a soleus push-up.
Yes, this is my favorite topic.
Calf raise with not weighted. And then they looked at a bunch of things about
such a cool study
and glucose clearance and insulin levels. And they didn't conclude that people burned a ton of calories, but what they concluded was that blood sugar regulation improved greatly.
Back to the soleus push-up, from what I remember, is that it increased your metabolic rate quite a bit. But one of the issues is that they didn't study that many people.
Yeah.
One of the things with this soleus push-up which is basically a seated calf raise, and you're not just thumping your foot around. So people that kind of just flutter their foot, you're kind of taking advantage of like momentum, and you're just kind of wiggling your foot around, and it's not going to be as calorically dense as actually flexing your calves. This is something I've been like participating in ever since I heard that study, because I'm like,
see you at the desk.
Yeah. Why not? Right? Like this, I have no idea what it's going to do or not do, but why not? It's good for me for running. It's good to help build the calves, and it's not hard to do. The ridiculous study, right? Completely ridiculous study. But that's the way I like to look at stuff. Like we're looking at these hand grippers and extensors, having different things in the way and around you, and making fitness and nutrition easier. Do I or do we, push it a little bit in terms of like how all in we like to go? Of course we do. It's kind of fun for us. I'm not expecting everybody else to follow suit, but some things are just so simple that it's like, why not just try this? Yeah. Something like a toe spacer. Okay, toe spacers are great, but yeah, it's a little funky getting them on, takes a moment. What about getting paluvas, right? What about getting a shoe that helps you with the toe spacer? So there's a lot of things that when I look at them, like something like a soleus push-up, I'm like, that doesn't cost me anything to do. Anytime I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do a couple calf races. So I try to implement it on a plane, in my car, wherever I can. I don't think it's going to you're not going to see people that walking around shredded. Like, oh my God, that's one of those soleus push-up guys,
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to have that big of an impact, but shit, if it can burn calories and help clear some glucose, why not?
This is the thing with the soleus push-up now. A part of you was telling yourself initially, okay, I'm going to just start doing this behind the podcast table, and then it progressed to now you're doing it almost everywhere. Mm-hmm. But remember when Alon came onto the show and he was just like, sometimes when I brush my teeth, I'll put my foot up or I'll close the door with my whatever. He's not joking. Like he's really not. Like I've started doing stuff like that too. Like when I brush my teeth in the morning, I put my foot up on the counter. I'll just pulse.
He'll like open a door or something with his foot or something?
Yeah, like he'll use his foot and he'll like open a door.
Cool.
And then, but the thing is he's built the habit of just using his body in all these different ways that promote mobility. Because even though someone might be thinking, oh, that's fucking ridiculous or whatever, when he puts his foot up on a fucking table like that and he's just moving around and brushing his teeth, like
it's a good motion.
Like, no, seriously, it opens up the hips. But the thing is now it's not something he thinks about doing. It's just the way he moves about life. And if you can use your body in more ways when you're just moving about life, that long term makes a difference. Maybe not just today or not just tomorrow, but it turns into what you do. And then when that's what you do, yeah, you'll burn more calories, but then you'll just overall move better.
It's almost like, it still helps to have some habits intact, but those things just sort of become like subconscious.
Exactly.
Not really thinking about them. And also you're not, it's not anything you have to work that hard at. Some of these things that Andrew's saying, just get on the floor. Like who would think that getting on the floor would burn calories, but it certainly burns more calories than just completely crashing on your couch. So you're going to move, like just what happens, I want to know like what happens over the course of 6 months, a year, 6 years, 10 years, 12 years. It's going to make a difference over time. Even something as simple as like not wanting to put your shoes on and slide, getting in those slides or something in the morning, or just stuffing your feet into your shoe, and sitting on the ground, taking time to put your socks on. What about a toe sock? I've been thinking about this lately. I'm like, the toe sock is extra work, and sometimes I'm like, I don't really feel like messing with that stupid thing right now. But does that burn calories? Is that extra activity? It is. It's a small amount of extra activity, but it's extra.
Yeah.
So you can play some of this by Ben Greenfield.
Let's see what we got. Right.
This guy's about as lean as they get.
Benjamin Greenfield.
I want to make sure that you understand a very important principle in exercise physiology. It's called the NEAT principle. It stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And it's very interesting because what they've found is that people who burn a lot of calories through small, not that intense, low-level physical activities throughout the day tend to be very, very successful from the standpoint of staving off metabolic diseases, chronic diseases like, say, diabetes or obesity or cancer or cardiovascular health. But then they also tend to keep weight off and stay lean year-round with far greater ease than people who, say, sit for 8+ hours during the day. I want to make sure that you understand a very
simple enough. He's just kind of stating some of the facts of what some of this can do for you. And I think we mentioned like so many variations of all these things that you can do. But like, there's something about being an adult that for some reason it just throws a lot of stuff off. Like, for example, when you're a kid, you may not be on the basketball team, but you have no problem dribbling a basketball. You may not be on the baseball team. You got no problem throwing the ball to somebody else. You may not ever have a desire to, you might be 10 years old. You might not ever have a desire to be a football player, but you'll chuck a football around with a relative. For some reason, when we're older, we just don't do any of that stuff. And people will say, oh, the gym's not for me. I think that's, I would love for people to participate in some form of resistance training. I think it has a ton of benefits. But in terms of like living a strong, healthy life, I don't know how much lifting you actually need. I think if you were more open-minded to just a lot of movement, I don't know if movement by David, I don't know how much actual like lifting he does. He's in great shape, but like to me, that guy's going to have, he should have really great longevity. He seems extremely healthy. And maybe he's doing more like calisthenics and resistance through other means, but I don't think you have to be a gym person. I don't think you need 4 hours of gymming every single week, 4 days a week, 1 hour per every session. I think you can get away with, saying, you know what, I'm going to play basketball with my son and his friends today, or I'm going to chuck a football around, or I'm going to go for a long walk today. I'm going to maybe ruck. Like maybe you can figure out ways to build some intensity into some of these things after you've been doing them for a while, because the intensity will be a factor as well. But I think some of this research is kind of showing you like that you don't need to really just destroy yourself to burn calories and to live a very healthy lifestyle.
It comes down to just it's changing your movement habits. Like any type of habit change is conscious and then it becomes unconscious. And it's the same thing with this. Just you change the way you go about living, you change the way you go about sitting. Get yourself some little things. Like go on Amazon and just type in finger extensors. They have these, but there's tons of different ones. Get yourself some things you can grip on. Get yourself some toe spacers, maybe something to put at work, like a rock mat underneath your feet, and just change the environments around the places that you consistently go. You go to work, have some of these on your desk, have something on the bottom of your feet so that you actually now are paying attention to the bottom of your feet. Maybe have like a small doorstop slant board or something. Have that at home. Just set up your environment so that your environment breeds the want to move, right? And if that happens, then you will be working out every day to some extent. You'll have the stuff you do at the gym, but when you get home, you'll still be encouraged to do little things like this stuff. Like whenever I pick this up, I know I'm making the conscious decision to pick it up, but at this point, it's not like, it's just like, put it on, talk, do whatever, and it's just there now, right? This probably wouldn't be scientifically neat, but it's not something that it's strengthening the hands, it's burning calories, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't be something that I'm consciously like, oh, I gotta do my finger extensor exercise again, right? Set yourself up for success, yo.
Yeah, there's a compound effect, right? You do all these little things and they'll add up eventually.
Dog. Yes.
You guys both have gym kind of setups at the house, right? Like you got equipment and stuff around. I have stuff around as well. And whatever ways you can get a hold of some of that stuff, hopefully it's stuff that you like. Don't try to force yourself to do stupid shit that you don't like, but try to get something that that you'll actually use, and maybe start low, start on a low level. Like just get the David Weck rope flow comes to mind. Like that's just, David is so brilliant on so many different levels, but to tell people, hey, don't even bother with jumping is kind of great. Like, yes, it would be great if you worked your way into jumping and you worked your way into jumping rope, but something that would deter someone from jumping rope is getting slapped by the rope a bunch of times. They're like, I'm good. Every time they look at it, I'm like, damn, I keep just whipping that thing on my freaking legs every time.
Some motherfuckers just need to get whipped as a kid. I never had a problem getting whipped by the rope. Like, right? It's just like, why is getting whipped? Just get hit. You'll stop at a certain point when you get good enough.
Makes you a better person.
Maybe it's because I think of whipping as maybe like a positive reinforcement. That's problematic. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good.
He's jumping rope with a huge erection.
Huge is the key word.
Yeah.
You flatter me.
But even something as easy as rope flow can be considered exercise. It's a really easy movement. It's not hard for people to do. It's something you can pick up. So there's tons of examples of that. We gave you lots of examples. Maybe give us an idea of maybe some things that you guys did, and let us know if you agree or disagree with what we said versus what Lane said. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, which I know you did because you got this far, then click this one right here because you'll enjoy this one just as much. And if you're choosing to still listen to me currently, as I'm telling you to go over here and watch this video, well, hey, that just means you like the sound of my voice. And, well, I'll just keep seducing you right here. Hello.